Principles of hydraulic brake systems. A hydraulic system uses a brake fluid to transfer pressure from the brake pedal to the pads, or shoes. This transfer of pressure is reliable and consistent, because liquids are not compressible. That is, pressure applied to a liquid enclosed system is transmitted by applied liquid that equally to every other part of that system. Apply a force of 5 pounds square inch, or 35 kilopascal, through the master cylinder, and you can measure 5 pounds square inch, or 35 kilopascal anywhere in the lines, and at each wheel where the brake operate. The force can be increased at output, that is, at the wheel, by increasing the size of the wheel's piston, though piston travel decreases. The force at output can be decreased by decreasing the size of the wheel piston, but the piston travel increases. No matter what the fluid pressure is, the output force can be increased with a larger piston, though piston travel decreases proportionately. In actual practice, however, fluid movement in an automotive hydraulic brake system is very slight. In an emergency, when the pedal goes all the way to the floor, the volume of fluid displaced amounts to only 20 cubic centimeters. About 15 cubic centimeters goes to the front discs, and 5 cubic centimeters goes to the rear drums. Even under these conditions, the wheel cylinder and caliper pistons move only slightly. Of course, the hydraulic system does not stop the car all by itself. In fact, it really just transmits the action of the driver's foot on the brake pedal out to the wheels. In the wheels, sets of friction pads are forces against rotors, or drums, to slow their turning and bring the car to a stop. Mechanical force, from the driver stepping on the brake pedal, is changed into hydraulic pressure, which is changed back into mechanical force via brake shoes and disc pads contacting the drums and rotors. The amount of force acting on the friction pads and shoes is equivalent to the pressure applied to the pedal, multiplied by the area of the piston affected. A force of 25 pounds square inch applied to the pedal, times 4 square inches of piston area, equals 100 pounds of pressure in the system. Dual braking systems. Since 1967, all cars is equipped with 2 separate brake systems. If one circuit fails, the other provide enough braking power to safely stop the car. The dual system differs from single system by employing a tandem master cylinder, which is essentially 2 master cylinder formed by installing 2 separate pistons and fluid reservoirs into one cylinder hose. Each piston applies hydraulic pressure to 2 wheels. Front, rear split system. In early dual systems, the hydraulic circuits were separated front and rear. Both front wheels were on one hydraulic circuit, and both rear wheels on another. If a failure occurred in one system, the other system was still available to stop the vehicle. However, the front brakes do approximately 70% of the braking work. A failure in the front brake system would only leave 20 to 40% braking power. This problem was somewhat reduced with the development of diagonally split systems. Diagonally split system. The diagonally split system operates on the same principles as the front and rear split system. It uses primary and secondary master cylinders that move simultaneously to exert hydraulic pressure on their respective system. The hydraulic brake lines on this system, however, have been diagonally split front to rear, in combination of left front to right rear, and right front to left rear. The circuit split can occur within the master cylinder, or externally at a proportioning valve, or pressure differential switch. In the event of a system failure, the remaining good system would do all the braking on one front wheel, and the opposite rear wheel, this maintaining 50% of the total braking force. Hydraulic brake system components. The following section describes the major components of the hydraulic brake system. Brake fluid. Brake fluid is the lifeblood of any hydraulic brake system, and is what makes the system operate properly. Modern brake fluid is specially blended to enable it to perform a variety of functions. Brake fluid must be able to flow freely at extremely high temperatures at 260 degrees Celsius, and at very low temperatures at -75 degrees Celsius. Brake fluid must also serve as a lubricant to the many parts with which it comes into contact, to ensure smooth and even operation. In addition, brake fluid must fight corrosion and rush in the brake lines, and various assemblies and components in services. Another important property of brake fluid is that it must resist evaporation. All brake fluids are hygroscopic, that is, they readily absorb water. This is why brake fluid should always be kept in a sealed container, and should only be exposed to outside air for limited periods of time. Some of the earliest brake fluids had chemicals in them that ate away at the rubber components in the brake system, such as cups and seals. Modern brake fluid must be compatible with rubber to avoid damage to the cups and seals in the system. Brake fluid must provide a controlled amount of swell to the brake system cups and seals. There must be just enough swell to form a good seal. However, the swell cannot be too great. If it is, drag and poor brake response occur. Every can of brake fluid carries the identification letters of SA and UT. These letters and corresponding numbers indicate the nature, blend, and performance characteristics of that particular brand of brake fluid. There are three basic types, or classifications of hydraulic brake fluid. DOT3 is a conventional brake fluid with a minimum dry equilibrium reflux boiling point, or ERBP of 205 degrees Celsius, and a minimum wet ERBP of 140 degrees Celsius. It is generally recommended for most ABS systems, and some power brake setups. DOT4 is a conventional brake fluid with a minimum dry ERBP of 230 degrees Celsius, and a minimum wet ERBP of 180 degrees Celsius. It is the most commonly used brake fluid for conventional brake systems. DOT5 is a unique silicone-based brake fluid with a minimum dry ERBP of 260 degrees Celsius, and a minimum wet ERBP of 180 degrees Celsius. In the last few years, DOT5 has lost its demand by braking service experts. However, remember that it is best to follow the vehicle manufacturer's recommendations. Some vehicles have brake fluid level sensors that provide the driver with an early warning message that the brake fluid in the master cylinder reservoir has dropped below the normal level. As the brake fluid in the master cylinder reservoir drops below the designated level, the sensor closes the warning message circuit. About 15 seconds later, the message "brake fluid low" appears on the instrument panel. At this time, the master cylinder reservoir should be checked and filled to the correct level with the specified brake fluid.